Hi everyone, welcome back to Climate Crisis 101. I am in the very beautiful Alice Keck Park in downtown Santa Barbara. You might hear there's a waterfall behind me. And a note on the audio, I realize my lips may be out of sync with the sound. And that's because I'm filming all these on my phone with a little lavalier mic attached, and apparently the iPhone has a sync problem regarding this. So, and I know if you're a technical person, you'll tell me I could just take care of this in post in Premiere Pro or something. I realize that, but I'm not doing any post. I'm just filming these. So sorry if that's a distraction, but I don't really know what else to do. So today we're going to deal with climate anxiety. And we're going to deal with it by way of the book, A Field Guide to Climate Anxiety by Sarah Ray. So let me say something right at the very beginning, and that is Sarah Ray is not a healthcare professional. She has a PhD, but it's not, in psychology or something. She's incredibly well positioned to understand the causes of the climate crisis and how they're impacting us. But if you're actually experiencing, real anxiety and, things like panic attacks or something, you really need to speak to someone about that. And I put a note on the course webpage for week 1 that UCSB has wonderful counseling services available. And if you're experiencing any anxiety of that sort, you should definitely, get in contact with them regarding anything, not just the climate crisis. So. The other thing I wanted to note at the beginning is that the companion course that I teach to this, which is English 23, also called Climate Crisis 101, in that course, well, the title of it is The Climate Crisis, What It Is, and What Each of Us Can Do About It. The first 3 weeks are taken up with that question, what the climate crisis is. And we do that in the first week by looking at sort of the global issue of the climate crisis by way of an article by a guy named David Wallace Wells. The second week, we deal with the local issue. You may be surprised to learn that it's been argued that the county in the lower 48 states that's heating up faster because of global warming, heating up the most, is just south of here, the county touching Santa Barbara, which is Ventura County, and Santa Barbara's not too far behind. So the climate crisis is real in here in Santa Barbara. So that's the second week. In the third week, we deal with climate change denial and the fossil fuel industry and its affiliates, and people are trying to block efforts in doing something about the climate crisis. The problem is, those 3 weeks are awfully depressing. And I knew that in setting the course up, because the next 7 weeks of that course are all about solutions and people who are doing different kinds of things and what we can do, both individually, through collective activism, politically, and all. But nonetheless, those first 3 weeks are depressing, and I found myself reading the comments, the YouTube comments for that class, and being shocked by how anxious people were. So for this class, I didn't want to make the same mistake, so we started right in beginning with climate anxiety, and let's talk about that right off the bat. So for this comment, what I would like you to do is address what you thought of Sarah Ray's A Field Guide to Climate Anxiety. Specifically, any issues in there that you feel were useful, or maybe you didn't think they were useful. In fact, you might not have thought the whole book was useful, and that's okay. That will, in fact, be helpful for me, because when I teach the course next time around, I'll decide whether to keep it on there. I thought it was a good book, and as you know, it's only one of 3 books that I'm requiring you to purchase, because, it is helpful in dealing with this issue that now is part of life, and especially for you, and you can talk about this. Sarah Ray calls you, she's not the first to do it, but calls you the climate generation. You're a generation that was born into not just climate change, but the consequences of climate change, which are here now. Things like wildfires, droughts, hurricanes, and increasing in intensity. These are all things that increased, dramatically during your lifetime. It's not that my generation didn't feel it, but when I was your age, the consequences weren't there. The consequences are here now. Anyhow, you may want to talk about that. You may want to talk about, her argument that what is needed is less information about the climate crisis, but more, feelings regarding it. So actually addressing it, and how to do that. And she throws out ideas like emotional intelligence, Daniel Coleman's idea, which is I think useful. But it's up to you to if you think it's useful or not. Or she does a discussion of happiness there. How does that work? And the fact that we're bombarded not just with facts about the climate crisis, but sort of doomsday thinking, as she calls it, and people talking about what the future is going to be like, and how does that impact us? The fact that, well, it's a sad state of affairs. If you look at science fiction writers, for example, we have one coming to the class, Kim Stanley Robinson, who's that second book that we read. Not in his case, but in many cases, people can't seem to imagine anything other than a horrible future, doomsday scenarios. So what about that? How does that make you feel? And in terms of this assignment, what about her discussion of things like that? Or her discussion of mindfulness. Mindfulness is going to come up again in this class. In fact, the third book that we read, Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet, obviously makes that central because it's about, meditation, mindfulness practice. But anyhow, Sarah Ray is throwing that out there as something useful here for us. She also talks about trying to understand where we're situated as far as finding our particular sphere of influence and what we can do. And she also brings in issues like climate justice. She's the first of our authors that does that. We're going to return to climate justice again and again, but it's an important issue to take up here. So anyhow, I don't want to make this video too long, and I don't want to really pinpoint anything that you should talk about. I really want you to talk about anything and everything that you found interesting, or maybe things that you didn't include that you thought should have, or emphasized that you thought should have been emphasized. So I hope you enjoyed the reading, and I'm really curious to what you think about it. So, okay, and thanks a lot.